Zoraya Vexari stood on the bridge of her warship, the Starfall. The massive vessel hung in space above the blue-green world of Proxima b. Her violet skin glowed softly in the dim light. The marks on her skin told stories of her victories. She had won 17 battles against the humans. Each mark was a reminder of her strength and skill. The ship's wide windows showed the stars and the planet below. Smaller warships floated nearby, all under Zoraya's command. She was not just any soldier. She was the crown princess of the Aloran Empire, the most powerful force in this part of space. "Status report," Zoraya said to her crew. Her voice was calm but firm. "Human ships detected at the edge of the system," said Kella, her second in command. Kella's skin was a deeper purple, almost blue. Her four-fingered hands moved quickly over the control panel. "They appear to be retreating." Zoraya smiled. Her silver eyes gleamed with satisfaction. The humans were learning to fear her. Good. The war had gone on for nearly 10 years now. It started when humans tried to mine an Aloran space. What began as a small fight over one planet had grown into a full war across many star systems. "Keep our forces in position," Zoraya ordered. "They may try to trick us." Just then, her royal communicator made a soft chiming sound. Only one person would contact her this way: her father, Emperor Vexari. Zoraya touched the device on her wrist, and a small image of her father appeared in the air before her. "Daughter," the Emperor said. His face looked tired. The markings on his face were many more than hers, showing his long years of rule. "You must return to Elora Prime immediately." Zoraya frowned. "Father, we have the humans on the run. Now is not the time to leave." "The High Council has made a decision," he said. His voice left no room for argument. "We have signed a peace treaty with the humans." Zoraya could not believe what she was hearing. Peace? After all the fighting, all the lives lost? "What terms?" she asked, her voice tight with anger. The Emperor's expression did not change. "To seal the alliance, there must be a marriage between our worlds. You, Zoraya, will marry a human representative." The bridge went silent. The crew pretended not to hear, but Zoraya knew they were listening. Her hands curled into fists. "This is madness," she hissed. The spots of light on her skin flashed brighter with her emotion. "I am a warrior, not a trade good. I will not marry a human." "The decision is final," Emperor Vexari said. "The human has been chosen. You will return to Elora Prime at once for the ceremony." Before Zoraya could argue more, her father's image disappeared. She stood frozen, rage building inside her. She had fought humans for years. She had watched them kill her friends. She had killed many humans herself. And now she was expected to marry one. "Your orders, Highness?" Kella asked quietly. Zoraya's hand moved to the ceremonial dagger at her hip. For a moment she thought about refusing the order. She could take her loyal ship and crew and rebel against this decision, but that would mean becoming an enemy of her own people. "Set course for Elora Prime," she said at last. Her voice was cold as space itself. "And the human ships? Let them go. It seems we are no longer at war." The words tasted bitter in her mouth. As the Starfall turned away from the planet and prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Zoraya went to her private quarters. The room was simple for a princess. She had no need for luxury. Her walls displayed weapons from many worlds, trophies from her victories. She sat at her desk and accessed the ship's computer. "Show me information about humans," she commanded. The screen filled with data. Human biology, culture, military tactics. Zoraya had studied them as enemies. Now she needed to learn about them as what? Allies? Family? The thought made her skin crawl. Humans were strange creatures. Their skin came in shades of brown and pink, not the rich purples and blues of Alorans. They had 5 fingers instead of 4. They lived short lives, rarely more than 100 years. Their technology was less advanced than Aloran tech, but they made up for it with clever tactics and surprising courage. Zoraya remembered battles where human ships, outgunned and outmatched, had still managed to win through unexpected moves. There was one human commander who had beaten her at Epsilon Eridani. That defeat still stung. The human ships had hidden in a dust cloud, then attacked from a direction Zoraya hadn't expected. She lost 3 warships that day. The starfall jumped to light speed, the stars stretching into lines outside her window. The journey to Elora Prime would take 3 days. 3 days for Zoraya to prepare herself for this unwanted marriage. On the 2nd day, a message arrived containing information about her future mate. Zoraya hesitated before opening the file. Part of her didn't want to know anything about this human. But a warrior never went into battle without studying the enemy. Was this human still an enemy? Zoraya wasn't sure. The file opened on her screen. The human's name was Elise Carter, a commander in Earth's United Defense Force. Zoraya studied the image. Elise had short hair the color of rust. Her eyes were green. Her skin was light brown. Her face showed strength and intelligence. The file included battle records. Commander Carter had led human forces in 3 major battles against the Aelorans. She was known for her smart tactics and bravery. In one battle, when her ship was damaged, she had still managed to save her crew and complete her mission. At least they're not giving me some weak diplomat, Zoraya muttered to herself. She watched videos of Elise Carter giving orders to her troops. The human moved with confidence. She spoke clearly and directly. Her soldiers seemed to respect her. The time the starfall reached Elora Prime, Zoraya had learned everything she could about Elise Carter. She still didn't want this marriage, but she had to admit the human seemed worthy of respect. Elora Prime was beautiful from space. The planet's surface glittered with crystal cities. Huge gardens floated in the sky, connected by delicate bridges. 3 moons hung in the pink-tinted sky. When the ship docked at the Imperial Citadel, royal servants were waiting for Zoraya. They bowed low as she stepped off her ship. "The Emperor awaits you, Highness," said the head servant, "and preparations for the ceremony have begun." Zoraya nodded stiffly. She allowed the servants to lead her to her rooms in the palace. There they helped her change from her battle armor into formal royal clothes. The ceremonial armor was heavy, with precious metals and ancient symbols. It was beautiful but less practical than her usual gear. "The human delegation arrived yesterday," one servant told her as they worked. "They've been given rooms in the east wing of the palace." "And has my future mate been told about our customs?" Zoraya asked. "Yes, Highness. The human has been learning our ways. She seems very adaptable." That night Zoraya couldn't sleep. Her mind was full of questions and anger. Finally, she decided to take action. She would see this human for herself before the formal meeting tomorrow. She would judge with her own eyes if Elise Carter was worthy. Quietly, Zoraya slipped past the guards at her door. She knew the palace better than anyone. It was simple for her to move through the shadows toward the east wing where the humans were staying. The starfall cut through space on its way to Elora Prime. Inside her private room, Zoraya studied more about humans. The more she learned, the more complex her feelings became. Humans were not as simple as she once thought. Their history showed. They often fought among themselves. But they also made peace. They created art and music. They explored space even before they had good ships. They were curious and brave, even when facing stronger enemies like the Aelorans. Zoraya touched her screen to open a new file. It showed the Battle of Tau Ceti, where she had destroyed a human outpost. The humans had fought well that day. Many died protecting their home. Zoraya had respected their courage, even as she defeated them. Another file showed the Battle of Epsilon, Eridani. This was where Commander Elise Carter had beaten Zoraya's forces. The memory still made Zoraya's pride hurt. The human commander had used the dust clouds around the planet to hide her ships. Then she attacked from below, where Aeloran ships had weak shields. Zoraya lost 3 warships in that battle. A clever strategy, Zoraya admitted to herself. Few opponents had ever outthought her in battle. She closed the files and walked to her window. Outside, space rushed by in streaks of light. The starfall was traveling faster than light, heading home to Elora Prime. Soon she would meet this human who had defeated her. Soon she would be forced to marry her. The thought still made her angry. But now there was something else too. A small spark of curiosity. Princess? Kella's voice came through the door. We will reach Alora Prime in 6 hours. Thank you, Kella, Zoraya replied. Prepare the ship for arrival. Kella hesitated. The crew wishes to know, will you be leaving us after the marriage? Zoraya hadn't thought about that. Would she have to give up her command? Would she be stuck in the palace while others fought the remaining battles? I don't know, she said honestly. But I will not abandon my crew or my duties, no matter what this peace treaty says. As the starfall approached, Alora Prime, Zoraya stood on the bridge again. The sight of her home planet always filled her with pride. Alora Prime was beautiful. The cities were made of crystal that caught the light of the system's sun. Huge gardens floated in the sky, connected by thin bridges. The oceans were deep, purple, and the land was covered in strange plants that glowed at night. It's good to be home, Kella said, standing beside her. Yes, Zoraya agreed, but her mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the human waiting for her below. The royal palace sat in the middle of the largest city. It was an ancient building, made from rare stone and metal. The Starfall docked at the palace's private port. A group of royal guards was waiting for Zoraya. Welcome home, princess, said the head guard, bowing low. The Emperor is waiting for you. Zoraya nodded. She said goodbye to her crew, promising to return soon. Then she followed the guards into the palace. The Emperor was in his private room. When Zoraya entered, he stood up and smiled at her. Despite her anger about the marriage, she was happy to see her father. It had been many months since they were together. Daughter, he said, touching his forehead to hers in the traditional Aloran greeting. You look well. Father, she replied. I wish I was returning under better circumstances. The Emperor's smile faded. He looked tired. The war had been hard. On him, too. I know you're angry about the marriage, but it's necessary for peace. Why me? Zoraya asked. Why not a diplomat or a noble? Why the crown princess? Because you are strong, her father said simply. You are respected by our people and feared by humans. This marriage needs to be between important people to show both sides are serious about peace. Zoraya wanted to argue more, but she could. See how tired her father was. The war had aged him. His once bright purple skin was now dull. The glowing marks on his face seemed dimmer. Tell me about the human, she said instead. Commander Elise Carter, a respected warrior among her people. She fought well against us in several battles. The Emperor smiled slightly. Including the one where she defeated your ships. Zoraya's eyes narrowed. So they're giving me to the human who humiliated me? No. They are joining 2 strong warriors who respect each other's skills. That is the foundation for a lasting peace. Zoraya wasn't sure she believed that, but she nodded anyway. When will I meet her? Tomorrow, at the formal introduction. The ceremony will be the day after. After leaving her father, Zoraya was taken to her old rooms in the palace. Everything was the same as when she left to fight in the war. Her childhood toys were still on the shelves. The bed was still covered in soft furs from animals native to Alora Prime. Royal servants came to help her prepare for tomorrow. They brought special clothes and jewelry. They wanted to style her hair in the traditional way for Aloran royalty. Zoraya let them work, but her mind was elsewhere. She couldn't stop thinking about meeting Elise Carter. What would the human be like in person? Would she be arrogant because of her victory at Epsilon Eridani? Would she look down on Aloran customs? That night, Zoraya had trouble sleeping. She tossed and turned in her bed. Finally, she got up and put on a simple robe. She needed to walk, to think. The palace was quiet at night. Most people were sleeping. Zoraya walked through the empty halls, her bare feet silent on the cold floors. Without planning to, she found herself near the east wing where the human delegation was staying. 2 guards stood at the entrance to the wing. They bowed when they saw Zoraya. Princess, one said, Do you need something? Zoraya thought quickly. I wish to see the gardens. I've missed them while I was away. The guards nodded and let her pass. The east wing had a beautiful garden on its roof, but Zoraya had no intention of going there. Instead, she moved silently through the halls, looking for Elise Carter's room. She found it easily. The door was marked with Earth's symbol, a circle with lines showing the continents. 2 human guards stood outside, but they were talking to each other and not paying attention. Zoraya slipped past them using a servant's passage she remembered from childhood. Inside, the room was dark and quiet. Zoraya's eyes, adapted for the dim light of space, could see clearly. The room was large and decorated in Aloran style, with flowing shapes and glowing plants. But there were also items from Earth, pictures, books, and what looked like personal treasures. Elise Carter was not in the bed. For a moment, Zoraya thought the room was empty. Then she noticed the glass doors leading to a balcony were open. She moved silently toward them and looked outside. The human stood at the edge of the balcony looking out at the city. She wore a simple Earth uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. Her rust-colored hair was short, showing the strong line of her neck. Her hands were clasped behind her back in a military stance. Zoraya watched her for a long moment. The human seemed at ease in this alien place. She was studying the city with interest, not fear or disgust. Her face showed intelligence and calm. Suddenly, without turning around, Elise spoke. I was wondering when you'd come to check me out, Princess. Zoraya froze. How had the human known she was there? Alorans could move in perfect silence when they wanted to. Their feet made no sound on any surface. Elise turned around and smiled slightly. Her green eyes found Zoraya in the darkness. Military training, she explained as if reading Zoraya's thoughts. I can sense when someone is watching me. Zoraya stepped onto the balcony, keeping her dignity despite being caught. You are observant for a human. And you are quieter than most Alorans I've met, Elise replied. Though I haven't met many who weren't trying to kill me. There was no anger in her voice, just a statement of fact. Zoraya studied her more closely. Elise Carter was shorter than her but looked strong. Her skin was brown, darker than in the pictures Zoraya had seen. Her green eyes were direct and unafraid. You destroyed my outpost at Tau Ceti, Elise said calmly. And you destroyed 3 of my ships at Epsilon Eridani, Zoraya replied. Elise nodded. We've both killed each other's people, and now we're supposed to marry for peace. Does that bother you? Zoraya asked. She was curious about how the human felt about this arrangement. Elise looked out at the city again. Peace is worth a personal sacrifice. My people are tired of war. I'm guessing yours are too. It was an honest answer. Zoraya respected that. Did they force you to agree to this marriage? No one forces me to do anything, Princess, Elise said, with a small smile. I volunteered. That surprised Zoraya. Why? Because I believe in peace. Because I've seen enough death and because... Elise turned to look directly at Zoraya. I was curious about the famous Princess Zoraya who nearly conquered 3 human systems single-handedly. Zoraya felt an unexpected warmth in her face. Was the human complimenting her military skills? Your tactics at Epsilon Eridani were impressive, she admitted. High praise from the terror of Tau Ceti, Elise said, using the nickname human soldiers had given Zoraya. They stood in silence for a moment. 2 enemies who had fought across the stars now sharing a quiet balcony on Alora Prime. Tomorrow we meet officially, Zoraya said at last. There will be many ceremonies and formal words. And the day after we marry, Elise added. Unless you're planning to kill me in my sleep tonight? Zoraya almost smiled at the joke. No. Despite what your soldiers might think, I do follow the rules of war, and now it seems the rules of peace. Elise nodded. Then I'll see you tomorrow, Princess. Morning came to Alora Prime. The first sun rose over the Crystal City, sending rainbow light through every building. Zoraya woke early. She had not slept well after her secret meeting with Elise Carter. The human was not what Zoraya expected. She had thought Elise would be arrogant or afraid. Instead, she was calm and respectful. She had even made a joke about Zoraya killing her. That showed courage. Royal servants entered Zoraya's room, bringing food and clothes for the day. Today was the formal introduction. Zoraya and Elise would meet in front of both their peoples, and the terms of the peace treaty would be read aloud. "Have prepared your formal armor, Highness," said the head servant. She was an older Aloran named Teza, who had served Zoraya since she was a child. "And the royal jewelry." Zoraya nodded. She ate her breakfast quickly, then allowed the servants to dress her. The formal armor was beautiful but heavy. Unlike her battle armor, this was made for show, not fighting. It was covered in precious metals and stones. Ancient symbols were carved into every piece, telling the history of the Vexari royal line. "You look magnificent, Highness," Teza said when they were finished. "Your mother would be proud." Zoraya's mother had died when she was young. She had few memories of her. But Teza had known her well. Would she approve of this marriage? Zoraya asked quietly. Teza's old face softened. "Your mother wanted peace, even when others called for war. Yes, I think she would approve." The great hall was filled with people. Ailorans stood on one side, humans on the other. The two groups did not mix. Years of war had left deep scars. Zoraya entered from the east door. A path cleared for her as she walked toward the center of the hall. Her armor caught the light, sending flashes of color across the walls. She held her head high, showing no emotion. From the west door, Elise Carter entered. She wore a formal Earth uniform, white with gold trim. Medals hung from her chest, showing her rank and achievements. She walked with the confident stride of a soldier, her back straight and her head high. They met in the center of the hall, in front of a raised platform where Emperor Vexari sat. Beside him was an older human man with gray hair and a serious face. This must be the human leader. "Princess Zoraya Vexari of the Aloran Empire," announced a royal servant. "Commander Elise Carter of Earth's United Defense Force." Zoraya and Elise faced each other. Up close, Zoraya could see small scars on Elise's face and hands. Battle marks, not unlike her own. Elise's green eyes met hers without fear. "Today we witnessed the formal introduction of two great warriors," said Emperor Vexari, his voice carrying across the hall. "Tomorrow they will join in marriage, sealing the peace between our peoples." The human leader stepped forward. "The treaty has been signed. The war is over. Now we must build a new future together." Servants brought forward a large crystal tablet. On it was written the peace treaty in both Aloran and English. The emperor and the human leader touched the tablet, activating it. The words glowed brightly. "Your terms are as follows," said a royal official. "All fighting will stop immediately. Prisoners of war will be returned to their people. The disputed mining rights in the Proxima Centauri system will be shared equally. And to ensure lasting peace, a marriage will join our two worlds." Zoraya listened without showing any emotion. She had already known most of these terms. The marriage was the part that affected her most directly. "Princess Zoraya and Commander Carter will now exchange formal greetings," the official announced. This was the part Zoraya had been dreading. The formal greeting between future mates was an ancient Aloran tradition. It involved speaking words of respect and touching foreheads. It was an intimate gesture that Zoraya had never performed with anyone, let alone a human. Elise spoke first, surprising everyone by speaking in the Aloran language. "I greet you, Princess Zoraya Vexari, warrior of the stars. Your strength is known across many worlds. I offer my respect and my hand in peace." Her accent was strange, but the words were correct. Zoraya was impressed that Elise had learned the difficult Aloran language. Zoraya replied in English, showing equal respect. "I greet you, Commander Elise Carter, defender of Earth. Your courage has been proven in battle. I accept your offer of peace." Then came the moment for the forehead touch. Zoraya stepped forward, leaning down slightly because she was taller than Elise. Their foreheads met gently. Zoraya felt a strange warmth where their skin touched. Elise's eyes were closed, following the Aloran custom perfectly. When they stepped apart, a murmur ran through the crowd. Many had doubted that a human and an Aloran could perform the ritual correctly, but it had been perfect. "The introduction is complete," announced the official. "The joining ceremony will take place tomorrow, at midday." As the crowd began to disperse, Elise spoke quietly to Zoraya. "You speak excellent English." "And your Aloran is surprisingly good," Zoraya replied. "I've been studying since I learned about the marriage," Elise said. "I wanted to show respect for your customs." Before Zoraya could respond, officials from both sides surrounded them. There were many details to discuss about tomorrow's ceremony. The two warriors were separated, each taken to their own meetings. That evening, Zoraya sat in her room, thinking about the day. Elise Carter continued to surprise her. Learning Aloran was not easy. The language had tones and sounds that human throats struggled to make, yet Elise had spoken it well, even with her accent. A soft knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. Tiza entered carrying a small package. "A gift from Commander Carter, Highness," she said, placing the package on Zoraya's desk. Zoraya was surprised. Gift-giving before the marriage ceremony was not an Aloran custom. It must be a human tradition. She opened the package carefully. Inside was a small metal object. It was shaped like a star, made of silver with gold edges. A medal of some kind. With it was a note written in careful Aloran script. "This is the Star of Valor, Earth's highest military honor. I received it after the Battle of Epsilon Eridani. I want you to have it as a symbol of respect between warriors." Elise, Zoraya, stared at the medal. This was unexpected. The Star of Valor was given only to humans who showed exceptional courage. It was Elise's greatest achievement, and she was giving it away? "Should I prepare a gift in return, Highness?" Tiza asked. Zoraya thought for a moment. Then she went to her weapon display and removed a small dagger. It was made of rare Aloran metal that glowed softly blue. The handle was carved from the bone of a sea creature from her homeworld. "Take this to Commander Carter," she said, handing the dagger to Teza. "Tell her it is the first weapon I used in battle. It has never failed me." Teza's eyes widened slightly. The dagger was one of Zoraya's most treasured possessions, but she bowed and took it without comment. After Teza left, Zoraya picked up the Star of Valor again. She ran her fingers over its surface, feeling the smooth metal. This was a warrior's treasure. It represented blood and fire, victory, and loss. Just like her dagger. Perhaps she and this human had more in common than she had thought. The next morning, Zoraya woke to the sound of music. The marriage day had arrived. Across the city, people were celebrating the peace. The music would continue all day and into the night. Teza and other servants came to help Zoraya prepare. The ceremonial clothes for a royal marriage were elaborate. First came a layer of soft fabric against her skin. Then the ceremonial armor, even more ornate than yesterday's. Over that went a flowing cape in the royal colors of deep blue and silver. The human returned a message with the dagger, Tiza said as she arranged Zoraya's hair. She said the blade honors her and she will carry it with respect. Zoraya nodded, pleased. At least the human understood the value of the gift. As the servants worked, Zoraya's mind was busy. She was no longer angry about the marriage. That feeling had faded after meeting Elise. Now she felt curious. What would it be like to be married? To a human? Would they live on Alora Prime or Earth? Would Zoraya still command her ship? "It's time, Highness," Teza said at last. "The ceremony begins soon." The great hall had been transformed. Yesterday it was formal and plain. Today it was filled with flowers and lights. The ceiling had been opened, showing the pink sky of Alora Prime. Both suns shone down, their light caught and reflected by thousands of crystals hanging from the walls. Crowds filled the hall, even more than yesterday. Aloran nobles in their finest clothes stood with human officials in formal wear. The two groups were still separate, but the line between them seemed less sharp today. Zoraya waited in a small room off the main hall. According to tradition, she would enter last. First, Elise would walk to the center, then Zoraya would join her. Together they would approach the Emperor for the ceremony. Through a small window, Zoraya watched Elise enter the hall. The human wore a white uniform similar to yesterday's but more elaborate. Gold thread decorated the edges. A new addition was a belt at her waist. Zoraya's dagger hung from it, the blue metal glowing against the white uniform. Elise walked confidently to the center of the hall. She stood straight and calm, waiting. The crowd watched her with mixed feelings. Some Aelorans still saw her as an enemy, but others were beginning to see her as a symbol of peace. A soft chime sounded. It was Zoraya's signal. She took a deep breath and left the small room, entering the main hall. All eyes turned to her. The royal armor gleamed in the sunlight. The celebration after the marriage ceremony lasted well into the night. The crystal city glowed with thousands of lights. Music filled the air. People danced in the streets. Aelorans and humans slowly beginning to mix together. In the royal palace, a great feast was held. Zoraya and Elise sat at the head table with the emperor and the human leader. Nobles and officials from both worlds came to offer their good wishes. "To peace," said an old Aeloran general, raising his cup. He had fought humans for years, but now he smiled at Elise with respect. "To new beginnings," replied a human admiral, clinking her glass against his. Zoraya watched it all with wonder. Just days ago, these people had been trying to kill each other. Now they spoke of friendship and cooperation. It seemed impossible, yet it was happening before her eyes. "Are all human celebrations this loud?" she asked Elise, leaning close to be heard over the music. Elise smiled. "You should see an Earth wedding. This is quiet compared to those." "And do all human marriages begin so suddenly?" Zoraya was curious about human customs. "No," Elise admitted. "Usually there's a time of getting to know each other first. Dating, we call it. Then an engagement period before the wedding." "We have similar customs," Zoraya said. "Royal marriages are usually arranged years in advance. The couple meets many times before the ceremony." They were silent for a moment, both thinking about how unusual their situation was, from enemies to spouses in just a few days. "I have a question," Elise said finally. "What happens now? Do I live here on Alora Prime? Do you come to Earth? Do we go back to our separate duties?" Zoraya had been wondering the same things. "I don't know," she admitted. "The treaty doesn't specify those details." "Well," Elise said with a small smile, "we could always ask." Together they approached the Emperor and the human leader, who were deep in conversation. "Father," Zoraya said, bowing slightly, "we have a question about our arrangement." The Emperor looked up. "What is it, daughter?" "Where are we expected to live? And what about our military duties?" The Emperor and the human leader exchanged glances. "We thought you might prefer to decide those things yourselves," the human leader said. "We have prepared rooms for both of you here in the palace," the Emperor added. "But if you wish to split your time between worlds, that can be arranged. And your ship, the Starfall," the human leader said to Zoraya. "It's being refitted as we speak. Weapons are being replaced with scientific equipment. It will serve as a research vessel now." Zoraya was surprised. "I can keep my ship?" "Of course," her father said. "But its mission has changed. Instead of war, you will lead exploration into the systems beyond Proxima Centauri." "Both of you," the human leader added, looking at Elise. "If you're willing, Commander, we'd like you to join Princess Zoraya on this mission. Your experience would be valuable." Elise straightened her shoulders. "I would be honored, sir." Later that night, Zoraya and Elise walked in the palace gardens. The 3 moons of Alora Prime shone down, bathing everything in soft light. Glowing plants lined the paths, their blue and purple light mixing with the moonlight. "It's beautiful here," Elise said, looking up at the strange constellations, so different from Earth. "I've never seen Earth," Zoraya replied. "Only pictures and battle maps. You'll see it soon enough, I expect." Elise stopped to touch a flower that closed its petals when her finger came near. Though I admit, I'm excited. About the exploration mission. There's so much we haven't seen yet. Soraya nodded. The systems beyond Proxima Centauri are mostly unknown. Both our peoples were too busy fighting to explore them properly. They walked in comfortable silence for a while. The garden was empty except for them. Everyone else was still at the celebration. I have something to confess, Elise said suddenly. I requested this marriage. Soraya stopped walking. What do you mean? Elise looked slightly embarrassed. When the peace talks started, they discussed having a symbolic union between our peoples. I volunteered. Why? Soraya couldn't imagine why anyone would volunteer for such a thing, because I knew it had to be someone of high rank, someone respected by both sides. Elise met Soraya's silver eyes directly, and because I admired you. Admired me? I was your enemy. Yes. The most skilled, most honorable enemy I ever faced. Elise smiled slightly. I studied all your battles, you know. Even the ones where you weren't fighting humans. Your tactics at the Battle of Deneb were brilliant. Soraya felt that strange warmth in her face again. She wasn't used to compliments, especially not from humans. The dust cloud strategy at Epsilon Eridani was clever, she admitted. I didn't see it coming. High praise from the terror of Tau Ceti, Elise said, using the nickname again. They resumed walking. The path led them to a small pond where strange fish with glowing spots swam in lazy circles. What will this be like? Soraya asked after a while. This marriage, we don't even know each other. We'll learn, Elise said simply. Day by day. There's no rush, is there? We have the rest of our lives. The rest of their lives. The thought was both strange and somehow comforting. Soraya had never thought much about her future beyond the next battle. Now the war was over, and her life had taken an unexpected turn. Tell me about Earth, she said. Not the military information. Tell me about the place you call home. Elise's face softened. I was born near water, in a place called San Francisco. It's a city by the ocean with hills and fog and a famous red bridge. My parents were both in the military, so we moved a lot, but San Francisco was always home. She told Soraya about Earth's oceans and mountains, about the changing seasons and the animals that lived there. She described human cities and customs, foods and music. Her voice was animated as she spoke of her home world. What about you? She asked finally. Where on Alora Prime are you from? I was born right here, in the royal city, Soraya said. But I spent much of my childhood in the southern continent, where the floating forests are. My mother loved it there. She told Elise about the floating forests, where entire ecosystems lived in the air, roots dangling down to occasionally touch the ground. She described the great sea beasts that sometimes came to the surface, their skin glowing with patterns that told stories. She spoke of aileron music, which used tones humans couldn't hear, and art made with light instead of paint. They talked for hours, sharing stories of their worlds. By the time they returned to the palace, the celebration was winding down. Servants showed them to their new rooms, which connected to each other but were separate. Both were decorated with items from both cultures, a visible symbol of their union. Good night, Princess, Elise said, bowing slightly at her door. Good night, Commander, Soraya replied, returning the gesture. The next few days were busy. There were meetings to attend, plans to make. The Starfall was being prepared for its new mission. Soraya spent hours reviewing the changes, making sure her crew would be comfortable with the new equipment. Elise divided her time between learning more Ailoran customs and teaching human ones to interested Ailorans. She was a natural diplomat, able to explain complex ideas in simple terms. People from both worlds were drawn to her friendly manner. 1 week after the wedding, Soraya found Elise in the palace library, studying an ancient Ailoran star map. Fascinating system, Elise said, pointing to a cluster of stars. Have your people explored it? Not thoroughly, Soraya replied. It's on the edge of our territory, Too far to be worth fighting over during the war. Elise nodded thoughtfully. Perfect for our first mission, then. Speaking of the mission, Zoraya said, the Starfall will be ready in 3 days. We can leave whenever you're prepared. Elise looked up with excitement. Really? That's wonderful. News. Her enthusiasm was infectious. Zoraya found herself smiling. I thought you might want to visit Earth first. There's time for that later, Elise said. I'm eager to start our work together. Their work together. The phrase stirred something in Zoraya's chest. She had always worked alone, giving orders but keeping her distance from others. The idea of having a partner, someone to share ideas with, was new and interesting. 3 days later, they boarded the Starfall. The ship looked different now. The weapons had been replaced with sensors and research equipment. New labs had been built where the combat training rooms used to be. The crew was a mix of Alorans and humans, all specially chosen for their scientific skills. Kella was still there, now serving as chief science officer instead of second in command. She greeted Elise with respect, showing no sign of her former distrust of humans. All systems are ready, Princess, Kella reported, and all crew members are aboard. Excellent, Zoraya said. Set course for the Lyra cluster. As the Starfall lifted off from Elora Prime, Zoraya stood on the bridge with Elise beside her. Through the wide windows, they watched the crystal city grow smaller below them. Soon they were in space, the stars spread out before them like jewels on black velvet. It's beautiful, Elise said softly. Zoraya nodded. Yes, it is. She had seen this view hundreds of times, but today it seemed different. Today she was not looking for enemies or planning battles. Today she was beginning a journey of discovery, with an unlikely companion by her side. The Starfall's engines hummed as it accelerated away from Elora Prime. Soon they would make the jump to faster-than-light speed. The Lyra cluster was several days' journey away. 3 months passed quickly aboard the Starfall. What had begun as a political arrangement between Princess Zoraya and Commander Elise Carter had grown into something neither woman had expected. Working side by side day after day, they had developed a true partnership based on mutual respect and growing affection. The ship hung in orbit around a strange planet in the Lyra cluster. It was the 5th world they had studied in this unexplored region of space. The planet below had rings like Saturn in Earth's solar system, but these rings glowed with blue light. The science team was very excited about this discovery. Zoraya stood on the bridge, watching the data flow across her screen. Beside her, Elise studied a different set of readings, her brow furrowed in concentration. The crystalline formations are unlike anything we've seen before, Zoraya said. They seem to generate energy on their own. Elise nodded. If we could understand how they work, it might revolutionize power systems on both our worlds. They had fallen into an easy pattern of work. Zoraya's strategic mind complemented Elise's attention to detail. Together they made discoveries that neither might have found alone. The exploration team is ready to return to the ship, reported Kella from her science station. They've collected samples of the crystals for study. Excellent, Zoraya said. Have them bring the samples directly to the main lab. We'll meet them there. As they walked through the corridors of the Starfall, Zoraya marveled at how much had changed. The ship that once carried weapons of war now carried tools of science. Aelorans and humans worked together at every station, sharing knowledge and skills. There were even some friendships forming between the species. Do you remember our first day on this mission? Elise asked, as if reading Zoraya's thoughts. Everyone was so nervous and formal. Zoraya smiled. You were the one who broke the ice. That speech you gave about how science belongs to all intelligent beings, not just one species. It's true, though, Elise said. Look at what we've accomplished together in just 3 months. 6 new star systems charted, 3 potentially habitable planets discovered, and now these energy crystals. In the main lab, the exploration team was just arriving with their samples. The crystals glowed with inner light, casting blue shadows on the walls. Scientists from both worlds crowded around, eager to begin their tests. Careful handling, please, Zoraya instructed. "We don't yet know if these are dangerous." Elise picked up a small scanning device, one that combined Aloran and human technology. "I'll do an initial analysis," she said. Zoraya watched as Elise worked. The human's hands moved with confident precision. She had learned to use Aloran equipment quickly, adapting it to her needs. Zoraya found herself admiring not just Elise's intelligence but also her dedication and her gentle strength. These past months had been a time of discovery, not just of new worlds, but of each other. Their private dinners had become a nightly ritual, a time to discuss the day's findings and share stories of their lives. Zoraya had told Elise about her childhood in the royal palace, about the pressure of being the heir to the empire. Elise had shared memories of Earth, of oceans and forests and cities filled with life. Slowly, carefully, they were building something that neither had expected, a true partnership. Perhaps even more. "The crystals appear to be organic in nature," Elise announced, looking up from her scanner. "They're alive in a sense." The lab buzzed with excitement at this news. Living crystals. It was an unprecedented discovery. "We should name them," suggested one of the human scientists. "Vex Carter crystals," offered an Aloran researcher, combining Zoraya's family name with Elise's. Zoraya and Elise exchanged glances, both slightly embarrassed but pleased. Later that evening, they met as usual for dinner in Zoraya's quarters. The room had changed over the months. Once it was purely Aloran in design, with flowing shapes and cool colors. Now it contained touches of Earth as well, books that Elise had brought, pictures of places she loved, small treasures from her home world. Their shared quarters on the ship had become a blend of both cultures, much like their partnership itself. "To the Vex Carter crystals," Elise said, raising her glass in a toast. Her green eyes sparkled with amusement. "To unexpected discoveries," Zoraya replied, touching her glass to Elise's. They ate and talked about the day's work, discussing theories about the crystals and planning tomorrow's research. It was comfortable and familiar, this sharing of ideas and observations. "I received a message from Earth today," Elise said as they finished their meal. "The peace is holding well. Trade has begun between our worlds. There are even talks of cultural exchange programs." "My father sent similar news," Zoraya said. "The Council is very pleased with the alliance. And with us." She hesitated, then added, "They want us to visit both planets soon. A goodwill tour to show the success of our union." Elise nodded thoughtfully. "I would like to show you Earth, and I'm eager to see more of Alora Prime than just the royal city." "Then we'll go," Zoraya decided. "After we complete our work in this system." They moved to the sitting area, where star maps and data tablets lay scattered on a low table. This was their usual evening routine, reviewing the day's findings, planning the next day's work. But tonight, Zoraya found it hard to focus on the data. Her mind kept wandering. 3 months ago, she had been furious about this arranged marriage. She had seen it as a political move that ignored her feelings and used her as a symbol. Now she couldn't imagine her life without Elise in it. "Is something wrong?" Elise asked, noticing Zoraya's distraction. "You seem far away tonight." Zoraya looked at the human woman who had become so important to her. Elise's face was familiar now. The curve of her cheek, the small scar near her eyebrow from an old battle, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. "I was thinking about how much has changed," Zoraya admitted. "When we first met, I was so angry about being forced to marry you." Elise smiled. "I remember. You came to spy on me that night before our official meeting. I wanted to see my enemy. For myself," Zoraya said. "I expected to find an arrogant human or a frightened diplomat. Instead you found me," Elise finished softly, "standing on a balcony, admiring your home world." "Yes." Zoraya hesitated, then continued. "I never expected to find a friend in you, Elise. Someone I could trust and respect. Someone who understands me." Elise set down her data tablet and moved closer. "Is that all you found? A friend?" The question hung in the air between them. Zoraya felt her hearts beating faster. This was not in the peace treaty. This was not part of the political arrangement. This was something else entirely. No, she said finally. Not just a friend. Elise's smile was warm as sunshine. I'm glad, she said simply, because I found much more than a friend in you, Zoraya. Slowly, giving Zoraya time to move away if she wished, Elise reached out and took the Aloran's hand. Their fingers intertwined, 4 violet digits clasped with 5 brown ones, the physical symbol of what they had built together, a bridge between 2 worlds. The ship's communicator chimed, breaking the moment. Kella's voice came through the speaker. Princess Commander, we're detecting an approaching vessel, unknown configuration, duty called. Both women stood immediately, their training taking over, but their hands remained linked for a moment longer. We'll continue this conversation later, Elise said, her eyes promising more. Yes, Zoraya agreed. We will. On the bridge, the crew was busy at their stations. The main screen showed an approaching ship, unlike any they had seen before. It was not Aloran or human in design. Its smooth, curved hull seemed to shift colors as it moved. First contact, Elise murmured, standing beside Zoraya at the command center. Once, such a discovery would have triggered battle stations. Zoraya would have ordered weapons ready, shields at maximum. Now she felt only curiosity and excitement. Open communications, she ordered. All frequencies, universal greeting protocol. The communications officer, a young human woman, worked quickly. At her console. Channel open, Princess. Zoraya and Elise exchanged glances, both thinking the same thing. This moment, this discovery, was what their mission was truly about. Not just finding new planets or studying strange crystals, but making contact with new forms of life, expanding the circle of known intelligent species. This is Princess Zoraya Vexari of the Aloran Empire and Commander Elise Carter of Earth's United Defense Force aboard the research vessel Starfall. We come in peace and friendship. The message was sent in multiple languages and mathematical code, the universal greeting used by spacefaring civilizations for first contact scenarios. For a long moment, there was no response. The alien ship continued its approach, neither speeding up nor slowing down. The bridge crew held their breath, waiting. Then, the communications console lit up. Response incoming, reported the officer. Audio and visual. The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of the alien vessel. The beings there were like nothing Zoraya or Elise had ever seen. They appeared to be made of the same shifting color material as their ship. Their bodies flowed and changed. As they moved, never keeping the same shape for long, one of the beings moved forward. Its body formed what looked like a head and mouth. Greetings, travelers from distant worlds, it said in perfect Aloran, then repeated the message in English. We are the Lysera, guardians of the crystal planet.